The latest royal story is not simply about a family meeting. It is about trust, and more specifically, what happens when trust inside a royal family has been damaged so badly that even a father meeting his son feels less like a private reunion and more like a carefully managed legal risk. According to reporting discussed by Page Six and royal author Robert Jobson, King Charles did not want to meet Prince Harry, Meghan, Archie and Lilibet without another trusted person present in the room. That person was Queen Camilla. If that account is accurate, her presence was not a casual courtesy, and it was not simply the natural appearance of a wife beside her husband. It was a safeguard. It was a witness. It was the king making sure that if the conversation was ever described later, there would be another person able to say exactly what had been said, what had not been said, and what tone the meeting really had. That is a striking image. A king who wants to see his son, who may want to rebuild some kind of relationship with his grandchildren, still does not feel comfortable being alone with the Sussexes. The human side of the story is obvious. Charles is a father, Harry is his younger son, Archie and Lilibet are his grandchildren.
Yikes! A total breakdown in trust. An extraordinary scoop from the highly respected news website Page Six, who have been told by leading royal author Robert Jobson that King Charles insisted on having a witness present for the duration of his face-to-face meeting with Harry, Meghan and the kids. Now, it's abundantly clear that King Charles was deeply worried that the Sussexes might go on to
No one should pretend that this is emotionally simple, especially with the king undergoing cancer treatment and clearly thinking more seriously about time, family and regret. But the institutional side is just as important. This is not an ordinary family. This is a family whose private conversations have become international television moments, best-selling memoir material, documentary content and headline fuel. After Oprah, after Spare, after the Netflix series, after years of claims and counterclaims, the palace side appears to have concluded that warmth alone is not enough. Any private conversation now needs protection. That is why Robert Jobson's reported insight matters. He is not a fringe voice. He is a well-connected royal author who has covered the monarchy for many years, and his claim that Camilla was present as a witness cuts straight through the softer public narrative of reconciliation. The palace can brief about healing, family, illness, and bridges. Those words all have emotional power. But if the king felt he needed a witness in the room, then the relationship is not restored. It is contained, it is managed, it may be polite, and it may even be affectionate in moments, but it is not relaxed. A normal father does not need another adult present to make sure his son cannot later misrepresent afternoon tea. A monarch who has lived through the Sussex media cycle might. The phrase that still hangs over all of this is recollections may vary. It was the palace's beautifully restrained response after the Oprah interview, and it remains one of the most effective royal statements of the modern era because it said almost everything while saying very little. It did not shout, it did not argue line by line. It simply told the public that the Sussex version of events was not the only version that phrase became a shield, because the palace understood that private conversations had been turned into public accusations. Once that happens, every future meeting becomes dangerous. A comment about a dress, a remark about the children, a small joke, a memory, a tone of voice, even silence can later be reshaped into a story. That is the fear behind Camilla's presence. The report also suggests something deeper about Charles's emotional position. He may want contact, but he does not fully trust Harry.
Royal author Robert Jobson, who's a good friend of mine, he's been a regular on my Talk TV show, tells Page Six that Camilla's attendance was very deliberate. This wasn't an accident, and this was not a courtesy. It was not a gesture. It was protection. And it's all because of a total lack of trust between King Charles and his runaway son.
Those two things can be true at once. A parent can love a child and still feel unsafe around the adult that child has become. A father can want to avoid dying with unresolved regrets and still remember the interviews, the memoir, the grievances, and the public embarrassment. A king can wish to be kind and still know that kindness may later be used as a public relations asset by people who have already proved willing to discuss private royal life for commercial platforms. That is the painful contradiction at the center of this story. Charles appears to want a door open, but he also appears to know that the door cannot be opened casually. Queen Camilla's role in that room is therefore loaded with meaning. She is the king's wife, of course, but she is also the person in whom he seems to place enormous personal trust. After everything Charles and Camilla have survived together, from public hostility after Diana's death to the long campaign to normalize their relationship, Camilla has become his anchor. In moments of stress, she is often described as steadying him. In a meeting with Harry and Meghan, that emotional support alone would make sense, but Jobson's reported explanation goes further. Camilla was not only there to comfort Charles, she was there to observe. She was there so the meeting could not later become a one-sided narrative. Camilla's presence also carries decades of royal history. Before she was queen, she was Camilla Shand, part of Charles's life long before his marriage to Diana in 1981. Their relationship has always been one of the most controversial strands of modern royal history because Diana's suffering became inseparable from the public understanding of Charles and Camilla. Diana's famous line in the 1995 Panorama interview about there being 3 people in the marriage fixed the story in the public mind for years. After Diana died in 1997, hostility toward Camilla was intense. The palace had to reintroduce her slowly, carefully, and over many years. Charles and Camilla appeared together more openly from 1999 onward, and they eventually married in a civil ceremony at Windsor Guildhall in April 2005. That history matters, because Camilla did not arrive at the center of the monarchy easily. She had to endure public blame, private strain, and a long rehabilitation. Charles knows what loyalty from her has cost.
The Queen was there for a reason. He goes on to tell Page 6, she was there to ensure there was another witness to everything that was said. Now, the gathering marked the first time in 4 years that Charles had seen Harry, Meghan, and their children Archie and Lily, but after years of public accusations from the Sussexes, the trust just isn't there.
Harry has never hidden his complicated feelings about Camilla. In Spare, he repeatedly framed her through the wound left by his mother's death and by the breakdown of his parents' marriage. He referred to her as the other woman and described childhood fears around what kind of stepmother she might become. Whether one sympathizes with Harry's childhood pain or not, the adult reality is that Camilla is now the Queen, Charles's wife, and the person he trusts most in moments of vulnerability. That makes her presence in the meeting even more pointed. Harry may not like her role in his father's life, but Charles appears to rely on her precisely because she represents loyalty, steadiness, and protection. That is a devastating commentary on the state of the family. It tells us that the king's private life now operates with a level of caution normally reserved for official negotiations. It also tells us that the Sussexes' past behavior has not been forgotten inside the palace, whatever softer public language may be used outside it. The Oprah interview did not simply hurt feelings. Spare did not simply sell books. The Netflix series did not simply tell a personal story. Taken together, they changed the operating conditions of the relationship. They taught the palace that private access can become public currency. Once that lesson has been learned, it cannot easily be unlearned. This is also why the discussion of photographs is so important. Reports around these meetings have repeatedly suggested that Harry and Meghan were not given the kind of photo opportunity that would clearly announce them as back inside the royal fold. That matters because in monarchy, an image can be more powerful than a statement. A photograph of Meghan with Charles, a picture of the king with Archie and Lilibet, an image of the Sussexes entering Highgrove or standing inside a royal property would instantly become global content. It would say reconciliation, restoration, access, acceptance. Even if the palace insisted it was private, the image would do the work. It would become a credential. Critics argue that this is exactly what Meghan, in particular, would have wanted from any royal return. Proof of proximity. Not necessarily proof for emotional reasons, but proof that can strengthen a public brand.
Not forget that it was the palace responding to the book Spare and the Oprah interview and the Harry and Meghan documentary when they issued that devastating line, "Recollections may vary." Now, it was attributed to the Queen, the late Queen Elizabeth. It's my understanding that William came up with the line. What a line! Recollections may vary. I mean, that is just beautiful language.
Meghan's post-royal identity still depends heavily on royal association. Her title, her marriage, her story of leaving, and her grievances all orbit the institution. A clear photo with the king would have been valuable because it would suggest that after everything, the bridge had not burned. Without that photo, the Sussexes get family contact, but not the public validation that comes with visible royal acceptance. That may be why the lack of imagery has become a story in itself. The security debate sits in the same category. Harry has argued for years that he and his family need a particular level of protection when they are in the United Kingdom. His side frames this as safety. His critics believe it is also about status. Armed police, motorcades, official escorts, flashing lights, royal residences, and carefully coordinated movement do more than protect. They signal rank. They make a person look official. They tell the watching public that this is not just a private citizen arriving for a family visit. This is a prince being handled as a prince. If Harry travels quietly in private vehicles and stays out of sight, he may be safe, but he does not look restored. And for a couple whose commercial power is tied to royal identity, appearances matter. This is why the alleged no-photo, tightly controlled meeting can be read as Charles calling the Sussexes bluff. If the goal was truly for the children to see their grandfather, that can be done privately. If the goal was to rebuild trust, that can begin behind closed doors. If the goal was family, then no cameras are needed. But if the real value of the visit depends on footage, photographs, leaks, sympathetic magazine stories, and visual proof of royal closeness, then privacy becomes less attractive. The palace seems to understand this. Charles may be willing to meet down, he may even be willing to forgive certain things privately, but that does not mean he wants to provide public material for the Sussex brand. And yet, even without photographs, the story still finds its way into the press. That is the other reason trust remains fragile. People magazine has run sympathetic Sussex-adjacent coverage many times, and when a detail appears about Meghan feeling sadness or about how the meeting played out emotionally, critics naturally ask where that information came from. If the agreement was silence, and if the palace side did not brief those details, then the suspicion falls back on the Sussex side or people close to them.
First of all, just emotional support. Ballast. I've got no doubt that Charles was anxious before this face-to-face meeting, after everything he and the family have been through at the hands of Harry and Meghan.
It may be impossible for outsiders to prove exactly who said what to whom, but the pattern matters. Every time supposedly private emotional detail appears in friendly media, the palace is reminded why it wanted a witness in the first place. The late Queen Elizabeth reportedly reached a similar conclusion before her death. Royal historian Hugo Vickers has claimed that after the Oprah interview, and while Harry was working on Spare, the Queen became increasingly cautious about taking his calls or meeting privately without a trusted aide or lady-in-waiting nearby. And if accurate, that is extraordinary. Elizabeth II was not a fragile figure. She was one of the most experienced public leaders in the world, a woman whose first Prime Minister was Winston Churchill and whose reign spanned decades of crisis, scandal, war, family drama, and constitutional change. If even she felt she needed someone nearby when dealing with Harry, that tells us the trust problem did not begin with Charles. It was already present at the very top of the monarchy. The same reported pattern appeared around Lilibet's introduction during the Platinum Jubilee period, when the late Queen was said to have resisted allowing a photographer to capture the moment. Again, the meaning is clear. A photograph of the Queen with Harry and Meghan's daughter would have become a powerful global image. It would have been used forever. It would have joined family history, royal branding, and Sussex storytelling all at once. The Queen understood the value of images better than almost anyone. If she declined that opportunity, she was not being careless. She was protecting the crown from having a private family moment turned into permanent public leverage. The source also brings in a separate reported claim about Ted Sarandos at Netflix, suggesting that even a major media executive was cautious about speaking with Meghan without legal cover on the call. That claim should be treated as reporting rather than established fact, but its usefulness in the narrative is clear. The trust problem around the Sussexes is not limited to royal relatives sitting in drawing rooms. It extends into the professional world where contracts, recordings, access, and reputation all matter. If executives, courtiers, relatives, and advisors all feel the need for witnesses, lawyers, or carefully controlled settings, then the pattern becomes hard to ignore.
So, Jobson said that ultimately only those inside the room know exactly what happened during the conversation. He said the only people who know are the people who were present, which is why Queen Camilla had to be there.
It suggests that the Sussex brand may generate attention, but it also generates risk. In media, risk can be managed with lawyers. In monarchy, risk has to be managed with silence, distance, and carefully chosen witnesses. That is the key difference between access and trust. Harry may still be able to gain access from time to time because he is the king's son. He may be able to speak to his father, appear at certain events, or be discussed with a softer tone because family ties still exist. But access is not trust. Trust would mean spontaneous meetings, open conversations, no need for witnesses, no fear of leaks, no worry that a private remark might be reshaped later. The palace does not appear to be there. Charles may be more forgiving than William, but even Charles seems to understand that Harry and Meghan cannot be handled like ordinary relatives. Prince William's position is likely much harder. The source material includes a blunt suggestion that William is deeply hostile toward his brother, and while the exact language belongs to unnamed insiders and should be treated cautiously, the wider point is consistent with years of reporting. William appears to have little appetite for a Sussex return. He has lived through the attacks on Catherine, the public airing of private family tensions, the stress placed on the late Queen, and the repeated use of royal connection as media content. Unlike Charles, William is not looking at this primarily as an aging father with a difficult son. He is looking at it as the future king. He has to protect the next reign, Catherine, George, Charlotte, Louis, and the stability of the institution. That is why any reconciliation under Charles may not survive into William's reign. Charles can open a personal door, but William controls the future institutional door. If Harry wants a long-term relationship with the monarchy, he will eventually have to reckon with William. And William's incentives are very different from Charles's. Charles may fear regret. William may fear repetition. Charles may want to see grandchildren. William may want to ensure that his own children never grow up in a palace culture where grievance, leaking, and public pressure can bend the rules. Charles may be sentimental. William appears strategic. That makes the Sussex problem not just a family dispute, but a succession issue. The mention of Charles's health adds another layer. Page 6 reportedly connected the king's willingness to meet with Harry to his cancer diagnosis and a changed perspective on what matters most. That is understandable. Illness often compresses time. It can make old resentments look smaller, and it can make family absence feel heavier. But it can also make a public figure more vulnerable to emotional pressure. Critics worry that the Sussexes understand this and may use the language of grandchildren, regret, and healing to gain renewed access. That does not mean every desire for contact is manipulative. It means that in a royal context, even genuine emotion can have political and commercial consequences. Harry's reported comment at the Time 100 gala that his father was doing great after undergoing treatment is another example of the problem. On one level, it sounds harmless. A son says his father is doing well, but in the current atmosphere, even that small remark becomes significant. If Harry is trying to rebuild trust, the safer route would be total discretion. He could say it was lovely to see his father and leave it there. Once he begins updating guests or the public about Charles's health, however casually, the palace has reason to wonder whether he understands boundaries. Rebuilding trust is not just about avoiding big attacks. It is about resisting the temptation to turn private proximity into public information. There is also the unresolved legal and financial pressure around Harry.
I don't think he should have allowed this face-to-face meeting. You shouldn't have a meeting with someone whereby you need a witness. You don't want someone like that in your life. You can't have people in your life that are a negative influence, that talk you down, that lie about you, and that you can't trust. And so the Queen was very smart. And it's interesting because despite the tensions that have defined recent years, Robert Jobson believes that Charles agreed to the reunion because he wants to avoid future regrets. Robert said, "The king is living with cancer and that changes your perspective," adding that the king has been reflecting on what matters most.
The source briefly points toward ongoing reporting connected with legal costs and the Daily Mail, including the possibility of very large sums being discussed in relation to litigation. The details are separate from the family meeting, but the wider relevance is obvious. Harry's post-royal life has been expensive, litigious, and unstable. The United States did not deliver the effortless global empire that some expected after Megxit. Spotify ended, Netflix has produced mixed results. Meghan's lifestyle ventures have attracted attention, but also skepticism. The Sussexes still command headlines, but headlines are not the same as durable success. That makes royal proximity more valuable, not less. This brings us to the sharp contrast with William and Catherine. Kensington Palace's handling of Prince George's 13th birthday shows a very different model of royal family life. A new photograph was released. A short video followed. The tone was warm, simple, and controlled. George appeared relaxed, with the casual confidence of a boy becoming a teenager, not a child being pushed into celebrity. The caption was minimal.
Separately, by the way, Page 6 reported that Harry recently told guests at the Time 100 gala that his father, who's been undergoing cancer treatment since 2024, is doing great. He can't resist. He cannot resist blabbing a little bit, can he, about what his father is up to following their face-to-face meeting.
The video showed him enjoying a beach setting during the family's Easter break in Cornwall, playing cricket, climbing around rocks, and spending time with the family dogs, Orla and Otto. Prince Louis appeared briefly. It was personal enough to satisfy public interest, but not so personal that it felt invasive. That is how William and Catherine have chosen to manage their children's visibility. They understand that George, Charlotte, and Louis are public figures by birth, but they do not treat their childhoods as open content streams. The public sees them on birthdays, at carefully chosen royal events, and during moments where the palace controls the setting, then the curtain comes down again. That rhythm matters. It protects the children while reminding the public that the Wales family accepts a measured level of visibility as part of royal duty. It is neither total secrecy nor constant exposure. It is disciplined. The source contrasts that approach with Harry and Meghan's handling of Archie and Lilibet. The criticism is that the Sussexes speak often about privacy while still using their children symbolically when it suits the brand. The children's titles, occasional images, stories, and references all become part of the public Sussex identity. To be fair, Harry and Meghan would argue that they are trying to control their children's exposure rather than surrender it to the press. But critics see inconsistency. If royal life was so damaging, Why emphasize prince and princess titles for the children? If privacy was the reason for leaving, why make family imagery part of media projects? If the children deserve a normal life, why keep their royal status at the center of public identity? The Princess Anne comparison is powerful because Anne chose not to give Peter Phillips and Zara Tindall royal titles. That decision gave them more freedom. They grew up close to the royal family but not trapped inside the same expectation structure. They have been able to build adult lives with less constitutional weight on their shoulders. Critics argue that Harry and Meghan could have made a similar choice for Archie and Lilibet if they truly wanted to free them from the burden Harry described in Spare. Instead, the Sussex children are prince and princess, titles that keep them tied to the very system their parents have repeatedly criticised. Prince George's birthday also matters because it marks the beginning of a new stage. Born on the 22nd of July 2013 in the Lindo wing of St Mary's Hospital, George is now moving from childhood toward adolescence, with his future role increasingly visible. He is not just William and Catherine's son, he is the future king after William. Every decision around him carries symbolic weight, including his education. The expectation that George will attend Eton College in September connects him directly with William's own path and with one of the most famous educational institutions in the world. It also renews the debate about how a future monarch should be prepared for duty. There is something quietly powerful about the way Kensington Palace marked that birthday. It did not try to make George look like a miniature statesman. It did not over-explain his personality or turn the moment into a dramatic family statement. It showed enough to let the public feel included, then stopped. That restraint is exactly what modern royal parenting requires. The Wales children cannot be invisible because the public has a legitimate interest in the line of succession. But they also cannot be treated like content because childhood under constant public consumption can become corrosive. William and Catherine appear to understand that the public needs rhythm, not access without limits. A birthday photograph, a carefully chosen family video, occasional balcony moments, major national events, and then privacy again. Eton is not an ordinary school. Founded in 1440 by King Henry VI, it is nearly 6 centuries old and sits near Windsor, a location that makes it geographically convenient for the Wales family, especially with their life centered around Windsor. It is an all-boys boarding school for pupils aged roughly 13 to 18, with about 1,300 boys and a house system that gives each student a smaller community inside the larger institution. Its buildings, rituals, language, and traditions make it one of the great symbols of the British establishment. For centuries, it has educated prime ministers, writers, soldiers, diplomats, actors, business leaders, and members of elite families. To attend Eton is to step into a world heavy with history. The school is also controversial because it represents privilege so clearly. The fees are extremely high, the network is powerful, and its place in British public life raises fair questions about class, access, and influence. But for a future king, Eton also offers something practical, a demanding environment where a boy cannot be treated entirely as fragile. William benefited from that.
New video shows George enjoying the beach in Cornwall during the Wales's family Easter break earlier this year, wearing the same sunglasses he sported at Wimbledon, playing cricket, climbing rocky cliffs, and spending time with the family's pet dogs Orla and Otto. His younger brother Prince Louis even makes a special cameo appearance. The follow-up post from Kensington Palace reads, "Thank you for all the birthday wishes for George today," with a birthday cake emoji.
He was the first future king to attend Eton, and by many accounts he handled it well. He was considered sporty, polite, grounded, and academically capable. He took A-levels in geography, history of art, and biology, reportedly earning top grades. More importantly, he had a setting where he could form friendships and routines away from the daily pressure of palace life. Harry's experience at Eton was very different. He attended the same school, but has spoken about feeling overshadowed and unhappy. His academic results were weaker, with a B in art and a D in geography commonly reported. He also wrote in Spare about the pain of William not wanting to be publicly associated with him at school in the way Harry wanted. That detail is emotionally revealing because it shows how early the heir and spare dynamic could become personal. For William, Eton may have been a place to build independence. For Harry, it may have reinforced the feeling that his brother had a path and he did not. That does not excuse everything Harry later did, but it helps explain why school, hierarchy, and family identity remain so important in royal storytelling. George's possible move to Eton therefore carries lessons from both brothers. William and Catherine will want George to have the stability and confidence William gained, while avoiding the emotional damage that Harry later described. They will also have to think carefully about Charlotte and Louis. The Wales children are growing up in a family where hierarchy is unavoidable. George is the heir. Charlotte is the younger sister, but still a senior royal figure in the making. Louis is the youngest and will have to find a role that does not become defined by resentment. William and Catherine understand better than anyone what can happen when a sibling grows up feeling secondary, misunderstood, or trapped in comparison. That is why their parenting appears so deliberate. The birthday video was not just a sweet piece of palace content, it was a signal of balance. The children are visible, but not overexposed. They are loved, but not marketed. They are royal, but still allowed to look like children. George is being prepared for duty, but he's not being made to perform adulthood too early. Charlotte is present in public life without being turned into a supporting character for her brother. Louis is allowed personality without becoming the family's comic relief brand. This is careful work, and it is taking place in the shadow of Harry's experience. Eton's traditions also reflect the world George is entering. The famous uniform with its black tailcoat, waistcoat, white collar, and pinstripe trousers is instantly recognizable. The boarding houses create tight communities and rivalries. The old system, known as fagging, where younger boys served older boys by doing errands, making tea, or polishing shoes, has long since been abolished, but it remains part of Eton's complicated history. The school still has unique games, ceremonies, vocabulary, and customs, including the famously strange Eton wall game, played alongside a brick wall with rules that outsiders often find baffling. All of this gives the school a mythic quality. It is both admired and mocked, respected and criticized. For George, that myth will be intensified by who he is. Other boys may come from wealth or power, but only George is expected to become king. That could isolate him if handled badly. It could also help him if the school manages to treat him with enough normality. The reports that George had to earn his place without special treatment are significant for exactly that reason. A future king who enters through ordinary expectations gains confidence and credibility. A future king who is seen as placed there only by birth risks resentment from others and weakness in himself. William and Catherine will know that merit matters, even inside privilege. That contrast returns us to Harry. Much of the current Sussex story is about wanting the benefits of royal life while rejecting its disciplines. Harry wants security, status, causes, relevance, and the emotional power of being the king's son. Meghan benefits from the title and the continuing royal connection. Their children carry princely titles. Their media value remains tied to the family they left, yet the obligations of service, silence, hierarchy, and restraint are precisely the things they rejected. That is why so many people struggle with the idea of a Sussex return. It can feel less like reconciliation and more like an attempt to regain the parts of royalty that still have commercial and social value. King Charles is caught in the middle. He may believe that a father should never entirely close the door. He may want his grandchildren to know him. He may feel the pressure of illness and time. He may also believe that compassion is part of kingship. But the crown is not only a family inheritance, it is a public trust.
He was the first future king to attend Eton, and he did so well. He was popular, he was considered polite, sporty, grounded, confident. He excelled at football, swimming, and water polo, plus he was a genius academically. He did geography, history of art, and biology. Do you want to know what he got in all of those? He got an A in every single one of those. Meanwhile, Harry, good luck. He got 2 A-levels. One.
If Charles gives too much private access, that becomes public leverage. He weakens the boundary the late Queen tried to draw. If he gives too little, he risks appearing cold. That is the trap Harry and Meghan's departure created. Every gesture is interpreted, every silence is briefed, every meeting becomes a test of the monarchy's strength. Camilla's presence in that meeting may be the clearest symbol of where things truly stand. The king is not slamming the door, but he is not opening it without someone beside him. He is not refusing to see Harry, but he is not trusting him unguarded. He is not denying the grandchildren, but he is not giving away photographs. He is not declaring war, but he is protecting himself. That is not reconciliation in the full sense. It is a controlled contact zone built around caution. The public should watch what happens next. If Harry continues to visit the United Kingdom several times a year, the question will be whether those trips remain private or start to look semi-official. If Archie and Lilibet are discussed more often in royal contexts, the question will be whether their titles are being used to soften public resistance. If friendly outlets keep publishing emotional details about Meghan's sadness, Harry's hopes, or Charles's warmth, the question will be whether the silence agreement is already failing. If William remains distant, the question will be whether Charles is building a relationship that the next king will refuse to inherit. At the same time, watch the Wales family. George's 13th birthday, his move toward Eton, and the controlled warmth of Kensington Palace's public messaging all point to a very different royal future. William and Catherine are building a monarchy of discipline, careful visibility, and long preparation. They are not offering constant emotional confession. They are not turning the children into content. They are not asking the public to process every family wound in real time. They are doing the quieter work of continuity. That may be less dramatic than the Sussex story, but it is far more important. In the end, this entire episode comes down to one painful truth. Trust, once broken, does not return because a meeting takes place. It returns slowly through silence, restraint, consistency, and time. Harry cannot demand it through lawsuits, interviews, security arguments, or emotional briefing. Meghan cannot recover it through sympathetic magazine language. Charles cannot manufacture it by arranging a room at Highgrove. Camilla cannot create it simply by witnessing a conversation. Trust will come back only if the Sussexes prove, over years, that private family life will remain private and that royal access will not become public currency. Until then, every meeting will need a witness, every photo will be withheld, and every gesture of kindness will be surrounded by caution. That is the real story behind the headline. Not simply that Charles saw Harry, not simply that Camilla was there, not simply that George turned 13, or that Eton is waiting in September. The story is the contrast between two royal paths. One path is quiet preparation, careful parenting, and duty, carried forward through George, William, and Catherine. The other is a wounded prince still circling the institution he left, wanting family, status, protection, and relevance, while struggling to rebuild the trust he helped destroy. The monarchy can survive conflict. It has done so for centuries. But it survives only when the public understands who is serving the crown and who is merely drawing from it. That distinction is now the line Charles must hold, and the line William is unlikely to let blur.